I'm Phil Upchurch, back to tell you another Upchurch story. And this time I want to tell you about a particular individual, a member of the 10th generation of our family, who taught Linbergh how to fly. I'll bet you didn't know about that. But I really want double credit for this presentation because we had a great deal of difficulty figuring out how this gentleman fit into the family. And that was because his very early Upchurch ancestor was a female. And as we all know, the females are hard to track. So that's part of this story, telling how we found out the descendancy from this female Upchurch. I'll start by mentioning that there were 5 generations of the American Upchurch family between the time the original ancestor, Michael Upchurch, got here in 1638. And I have here on this chart a presentation of those 5 generations. And the reason I do this is I want to tell you about the one that this particular individual descended from. And that is, he descended from Moses Upchurch, a head of one of the 22 clans of the Upchurch family in America. So you all think about the clan you belong to, and here is Moses Upchurch, head of the Moses Upchurch clan. Now I need to shift charts to go on down later in the generations so I can tell you how this special individual falls in the family. So here we see a chart headed Charles Linbergh and the Upchurch family, and we start with Moses Upchurch, a member of the 5th generation of the family, and I show you the next generations in turn that lead to William Augustus Winston. We call him Bill Winston, and he's the guy that taught Linbergh how to fly. But there's some other things I want to tell you about this before we get into the specifics about Bill and what he did with Linbergh. You'll note on this chart, we start with Moses Upchurch, a member of the 5th generation of the family, and go to his daughter Parthenia, then to her son Upchurch Smith, then to his daughter Parthenia Smith, and her daughter Lizzie Avera, and then to Bill. Now here was the problem. We didn't figure out right away how all of Moses' daughters fitted into the picture. We knew Parthenia was his daughter, born in about 1788. That's a long time ago. But we didn't know who her descendants were, who she married, or whatever. But it was very intriguing to see in the records appearing from time to time this individual named Upchurch Smith. Well, the fact that the man's first name was Upchurch and his last name was Smith told me this guy's got to fit in the family somehow. Well, how did he fit? That was the trick to figure out. And whereas I've shown you on this chart the full descendancy, it wasn't that easy to sort out. Let me turn to another book to tell you about that gives you more of that particular part of the story. And that is this book, which is the Wake County, North Carolina Heritage Book. And in here we have a whole series of articles about different families. And I'll turn here to the particular one that's of interest to us today. And it is an article on page 39 entitled Eagle Rock Community. Now, Eagle Rock Community is a little community in eastern North Carolina in Wake County. And you can refer to a map and see where that is. And it is a hotbed of Upchurch activity, so don't overlook that. But now we look at what this tells us. And of course, I studied this article for a long time without knowing everything that it meant. But here's the intriguing little story about this part of this family. It says that, referring to this individual, Thomas H. Avera, and I'll read you a little bit of this. It says Thomas H. Avera was born in 1832. He attended school in Raleigh, and in the 1954s he was in Pennsylvania where he was studying medicine. he came home for a visit, and while on the vacation, he chanced to see Barthenia Smith, a small girl of 6, accompanied by her mother. Engaging her in conversation, he soon to be Dr. Aviator became entranced, promising to return and marry her, and 10 years later, they were indeed married at Upchurch, which is in eastern Wake County, North Carolina. Now, in this book is a lovely picture of Dr. T.H. Aviator Smith at an elderly age, sitting at Eagle Rock in Wake County, North Carolina, smoking his pipe. He was a distinguished physician and had a career of being a doctor there in North Carolina. But you see, he joined the Upchurch family by marrying Parthenia Smith. Although in this book I have just read you, it's called Barthenia Smith. And we go back and forth in the records, and that's part of what made it difficult to sort out. But by the time we got it all figured out, we were back to the point of the chart where we could be sure that Moses Upchurch had a daughter, Parthenia, and that she married a gentleman by the name of Smith, and they had a son, Upchurch Smith, who had Parthenia Smith, who was a little 6-year-old girl that Dr. T.H. Aviator saw and courted and came back and married her. Now, he was off to the Civil War as well, but that's another story. To show you that this is indeed an Upchurch descendancy, I will claim that Bill Winston's mother, Lizzie Aviator, a member of the 9th generation, is my 4th cousin. So you see, there's a blood relationship there, and although we have been dealing here with several generations that doesn't have the name of Upchurch attached to it, you can be sure that Bill Augustus Winston was in fact an Upchurch descendant. Let me tell you a little bit more about Bill and how he related to Linbergh. I go to a book on Linbergh, and it is, the book is entitled Linbergh, just plain Linbergh. It's written by A. Scott Berg, and it is written in 1998. And I will turn to the pertinent page for our purposes. And it talks about Linbergh, and it says that Linbergh was, he was already an accomplished flyer, but he decided he wanted to go into the Army, to the Air Force, or the Armed Forces, which was part of the Army at that time. And he was had a lot of experience flying, but he wanted to fly these special planes that they had in the Armed Forces. It says here on page 23 of this book, he realized that flying cadets had access to the most modern and powerful airplanes, not war surplus. He also believed that every man should take part in defending his country. So he reported to Brooks Field in San Antonio, Texas, on about March 15, 1924. And on the next page, we learn more about what happened. He says, by April, the class got to fly with 7 candidates assigned to each instructor. Linbergh felt fortunate in falling under the command of Master Sergeant Bill Winston. That's our 10th generation Upchurch member. And this Bill Winston was reputed to hold the record for flying time in the Army with close to 3,500 hours. So you see, it says in this book, this Linbergh biography, that Bill Winston was his instructor. But there's more I can tell you about him. Bill Winston was a very accomplished pilot. It says here in my notes that I've recorded that Bill attended the University of North Carolina in the 1920s. He's buried at Arlington. He became a pilot and flew the PanAm Clipper. Now here's a special bonus for you. Not only did he teach Linbergh how to fly in the Army, but he flew the bodies of Will Rogers and Wally Post hung from Alaska. Those of you who are history buffs will recall that Will Rogers in the 1920s and 30s was the most famous comedian in America. And his great friend Wiley Post, who flew him various places, was quite an adventurer, and they were in Alaska and the plane crashed and someone had to bring him home. So it was our cousin, Bill Winston, who did the job. So here you see a double situation and a bonus we get because we learn about a member of our family who did something in association with prominent individuals. And we also learn a little story about how you have to work hard to find out how the females fit into the family. We welcome Parthenia and Barthenia, whatever you call them, into the family. Thank you for listening.